Last week, Steam held its latest Next Fest, where once again hundreds of indie developers got a platform to showcase demos for their upcoming games. It is unbelievably tough to break through such a massive amount of competition and stand out, and what sticks is ultimately just uniqueness and polish. So I sifted through a lot of demos and played around a dozen of them. Overwhelmed and picky as I was, I still tried to approach each and every game with an open mind and give it the attention it deserves. Here are the ones that managed to actually hold it. But before we get started, hi, I'm Jerry and welcome to my channel Scharfsinn, where you'll find reviews, first impressions, discussions and spotlights on all manner of video games. I also like to post reviews over on Backloggd under the same name if you're interested. If you're into any of that, I'd be glad to see you stick around. But now let's get started.
What are you doing? Oh, no, please stop! No!
Final Sentence is one of the most unique Battle Royale games I've played. You don't actually fight other players with any guns or melee weapons. Your only weapon here is your typewriter. So the way this works is that you and 20 odd other players sit at their desks with a typewriter. Next to you is a guard holding you at gunpoint. The goal of the game now is to type out the appearing words and sentences on screen as fast as possible. Making a mistake sets you back to the beginning of the sentence. Making 3 mistakes causes the guard to put in a bullet into his revolver and do Russian roulette with you. Each match has 3 rounds, and as the sentences get progressively harder and your mistakes add up, it's a surprisingly tense and fun experience. Final Sentence has a fantastic foundation with so much potential, and I do want to stress that it's a good foundation because while it is fun, it needs a lot more variety to stay engaging over a longer period of time. While its simplicity has its charm, it could do with some modifiers that randomize the experience, allowing you to perhaps sabotage other players, for example. I haven't been able to find any information about what the devs are planning to add for the full release, but I hope they can really capitalize on this idea. It's so unique, but I just hope they can find more ways to shake things up because this gets old after a few hours, so we'll see. The game is coming out on Steam sometime in the first quarter of 2026, no concrete release date yet. You can find a link to the Steam page of Final Sentence in the description. Skate Story is, shockingly, a game about skating. There's not really a shortage of games in that genre, and Skate Story follows the usual basics in terms of mechanics, but it stands out with its surreal art direction and visceral use of its camera. The game has been shown off many times already, going as far back as 2020, but this demo is the first time we could actually get our hands on it. Skate Story really thrives on its bizarre atmosphere and look. The story it tells is equally weird. You're a demon made of glass who gets offered a skateboard and a deal from the devil to skate to the moon, swallow it, and by doing so be freed from the underworld. It is so absurd to even say the sentence out loud, and the game knows how absurd it is and has no shame about it whatsoever. You meet characters such as the philosopher who asks you to collect think pieces and who wants you to perform tricks to reveal the true spiritual depth of skating. It's deliberately dumb in the most charming way possible. The structure of the game is as follows. There are 9 layers of the underworld to go through, which seem to be mostly linear levels with bosses sprinkled throughout. However, there's also a hub area that the game introduces you early on, where you can buy items, cosmetics and meet various characters. I wasn't too hot on this hub area to be honest, but the actual levels are a lot of fun. Not only does the art style fully deliver, the game also just feels awesome to play with butter smooth controls and a camera that makes every move feel appropriately weighty. On top of that, there is an awesome psychedelic soundtrack accompanying the game, which completes the trippy vibes the game is going for. This was probably the best and most polished game I played in this Next Fest, and it's also been one of the most downloaded ones, with reportedly over 50,000 players jumping in. Skate Story is coming out on PC, PS5 and Nintendo Switch 2 on December 8th, and you can find a link to the Steam page in the description below. It's hard to think of a more crowded space in the indie scene than first-person horror games. At this point, a game needs a really special something to stand out. That format might have such a thing. Callbacks to silent horror films from the 1920s, Italian giallo films and 1980s body horror. The game starts out in a very familiar way if you've played any game of this genre before. You find yourself in a dark apartment, looking around for items, soaking up the quiet dread. Then you find a videotape that you insert into a cassette player. So, what is on this tape? A short film of two grave robbers stalking a cemetery, coming across the spookiest of monsters. A classical musician with a white wig and a violin. It's filmed in this very silent horror era style, and it was made specifically for this game. Which is already super cool, but here comes the real twist. Once this tape ends, the apartment door opens and you find yourself in that very same black and white cemetery from the film. You follow its winding paths that lead into a crypt, which is where you start to hear this sound. It's that same musician from the film and his creaky violin that echoes through the hallways. This was the moment where I actually got chills and realized how much potential this game actually has. It's very standard fare as far as its gameplay goes, but how it makes use of monsters and tropes from old movies is a stroke of genius, and this mixed media approach really works. I'm curious to see what they could do with this, because there is a lot of potential here. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play the whole demo because at one point I got stuck in this cell with two enemies blocking my way out, and I would have had to restart the whole demo, and I wasn't quite up for that. This game markets itself as a survival horror game, and there's apparently some resource management with various tools and weapons which I unfortunately didn't get to see or use, so I can't judge how all of that plays. Still, from what I have played and what the trailer shows, this is a fun homage to old horror films with a refreshing mixed media approach. That format is coming out on Steam sometime this year. Do check out the link to the Steam page in the description if any of this sounded or looked interesting. I've already shouted out Reanimal in my last video, so I'll try to keep it brief. Reanimal is the latest game from the developers behind the popular Little Nightmares 1 and 2, which I personally loved. Once again, you traverse a dark and gritty world as a child, fleeing aggressive, oversized monsters and twisted humans out to get you. This is a game that has some light puzzles, but is ultimately about the atmosphere and tense escape sequences. Unlike those first two Little Nightmares games, however, this one has fully fledged co-op, which is how I played the demo. The game does make use of its co-op nature quite a bit, and it doesn't feel tacked on. In fact, it feels refreshing to play a game like this in co-op. There is, however, a lack of polish at this point. Me and my friend had numerous issues with the connection and lag, even though we both have a solid internet connection. This was especially frustrating in the chase sequence that we had to retry over a dozen times because one of us always had some lag. Those frustrations aside though, this seems to be just another very solid horror game from a studio. To be honest, I was hoping for it to be a little bit more ambitious, but it may be too early to tell because this is just a small slice of the game. Reanimal is coming out sometime in 2026 on PC and all current generation consoles. Check out the Steam page in the description.
Plastemia has taken everything from us. But you Tidewalkers are all connected.
Hey, you! Stop right there!
And it's up to you now to use that power.
Speaking of ambition, this next game has a lot of it. This is Tides of Tomorrow, a game that I struggle to define or assign to any genre. On Steam it's listed as asynchronous multiplayer, exploration and adventure, but that doesn't quite capture what this game is trying to be. At the start of Tides of Tomorrow, you choose another player that you are going to follow. What this means is that you experience a story and a world that has been shaped by the decisions of what this person did before you. Based on these decisions, certain characters will have different attitudes towards you, certain paths through the levels and gameplay opportunities may or may not be available, and they ultimately shape the storyline that you will experience. Did I mention that this game was ambitious? Honestly, it sounds like a game that is impossible to make, because there are so many variables to handle and to account for if you want to fully realize such a vision. I've only played through the demo once, which offers only one level to go through, but everything I experienced felt very organic and immersive, to a point where I am tempted to buy into this illusion of endless possibilities and consequences. The question really is, how much variety is there? How many different paths and outcomes does this game really have? I fear this may be a case of a game whose illusion starts to fall apart on replays, but that might be a question for the full game. Aside from its very unique structure, this was honestly a blast. Despite the vibrant and comic-like art style, this is a world where disease is running rampant and people are fighting over the precious cure ozone, which you yourself lead and which plays a role in the decisions you make. The gameplay mainly consists of exploration, dialogue choices and stealth, which all feel quite natural and fairly polished. In general, this is a story-focused game first and foremost, where the gameplay is secondary. I'm not getting the impression that exploration or stealth will get any more complex than they need to be, and that's fine. This game does so much already with its general art style, aesthetic, and of course its unique structure. Tides of Tomorrow really struck out to me with its unique premise and with its general polish and immersiveness. Only the full game will reveal if the developers can actually pull this off, but I'm rooting for them. Tides of Tomorrow is coming out on Steam on February 24th, 2026. The Steam page is in the description. These were all the games that caught my attention during this latest Steam Next Fest. I do have to say, there were fewer highlights this time around compared to some other Next Fests, but when you really dig into it, there is always something good to find. But now I want to hear from you. Have you found anything else that has found its way onto your wishlist that I have missed here? Let me know down in the comments below. With that said, thank you for watching and I'll see you again next time.